I'm Indy Neidell. Welcome to another exciting episode of Out of the Trenches, where I sit here in my chair of wisdom and answer all your questions about the First World War. Riyad Guzin writes, hello there, Indy and the crew. I was there since 1914. Pretty old person, and I became addicted since. I wonder what he became addicted to. Here's a question for Out of the Trenches. How did various armies deal with soldiers who had to wear glasses, and how was their life in the trenches? What did they do to keep the glasses on in battle? I sent other questions, but I hope this one makes it. Love you guys. Well, this one made it. The reason why you don't see a lot of soldiers wearing glasses in the field is because men with eye problems, for lack of a better word, they weren't usually drafted for combat in the first place. Wearing glasses into battle is, well, it would always be a hassle, and especially so for things like putting on a gas mask. I mean, your glasses would fall off in battle, they would break, they'd get dirty, or you might lose them, and if you had particularly bad eyesight, then you'd be really screwed. So usually, high command would not draft you if your eyesight was damaged in some way. The exception to that was staff work away from the front. Reading maps, typing orders, things like that. Those were jobs for soldiers with glasses if they were educated as well. The Central Powers in 1917 lowered their regulations because of the need for more men at the front. So they drafted men with glasses into the army. They even invented a device that could be worn under the gas mask called the Maskenbrille. It had two elastic fabric strings to the sides to deal with the glasses. It wasn't really comfortable from what I've read, but it worked. Emilio Reina from Patreon writes, World War I has often been described as the first conflict where industry really made the difference. Where were the main industrial centers located for each power? Okay, the industrial centers in and out of Europe were most often big cities that were already highly industrialized before the war. Usually in areas that had access to the sea or to big rivers, and which were in areas that would favor their industrial output, like in a coal-rich region, a big coal mining district. Cities like, let's say, Manchester, Birmingham, and Glasgow for Great Britain, right? The cities around the Ruhr in Germany, like Essen or Dortmund, or German cities close to the North Sea. In France, mostly in the north, like the city of Le Creusot, in Russia around Petrograd, the Urals, and in what's now Ukraine, and so on. Industrial centers had to be, most importantly, connected to resources and transportation lines. You can say that the war transformed some regions and cities into stronger industrial competitors, but overall, it was usually the same cities that were industrial powerhouses from, well, let's say the 1850s up to the 1960s, when many traditional industries began to decline. Sean Murphy asks, I have heard numerous stories of generals from both sides in the American Civil War having emotional breakdowns upon seeing their entire units obliterated. For example, Union General Burnside at Fredericksburg. Given how many men they lost, it is odd to me that I haven't heard any similar stories from the First World War. Were generals of the Great War just too far away from the front and their troops for it to have that effect on them? Or do you know of some examples? Well, as you think, in the American Civil War, most of the high generals commanded from close to the front, in clear sight, in clear view of the action. So the emotional impact of soldiers dying because of their orders was way more personal. Allegedly, the official report by General Pickett after the courageous but disastrous charge at Gettysburg had to be burned because it was so bleak and full of bitterness. In the Great War, there were several nervous breakdowns by commanders and even generals, but mostly due to panic attacks and anxiety. Even at the beginning, even in August 1914, you had the nervous breakdown of the German General von Prittwitz, ordering a full retreat in front of the advancing Russians. Or in October, as Chief of Staff, former Chief of Staff, von Moltke, the younger, he couldn't deal with the pressure of the failure of the Schlieffen Plan and all of the incredible amounts of people dying. Same goes for Douglas Haig, actually, who often hastily retreated from the front lines back then as the Germans attacked through Belgium, even disregarding his allies. After trench war set in, once the stalemate set in, and the War of Motion was over, the high generals were usually far away from the actual fighting areas. Now you had nervous breakdowns. They were had by the soldiers in the front lines, and it didn't matter if they were high NCOs or just a common recruit. Soldiers afraid to advance, officers too shattered to give commands, or clinging to their shallow holes in the ground. Too numerous are the accounts in that regard, if you read diaries and letters from those men, and it doesn't matter which side, which battlefield. In contrast, the high generals in diaries and letters usually boasted about themselves and their bravery and their calm in their memoirs. If you'd like to see one of our early episodes about when trench warfare really set in, you can click right here to see that. Do not forget to like us on Facebook, because Flo puts all kinds of cool stuff up there, and it will make you happy each and every day of the year. See you next time.